Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Smart TCG, and today I'm going to be going over a Scarlet and Violet Pokemon 151 set buy list. This is the brand new set that is going to be releasing in about a month, and it's going to shake up the metagame quite a bit. So today we're going to be going over exactly what some of the most important cards do and how many you should be buying of each of them. So with that being said, if you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's the best way to help me out as a creator. We'll be doing a booster box giveaway as well really soon, so make sure to tune into that. But anyways, let's hop into it, starting with one of the most hyped up brand new cards. Alrighty, hopping into the first card, we have arguably the most hyped up card in the brand new set, Mew EX. Mew EX has that incredible ability restart. Once you're in your turn, you may draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand. Very reminiscent to Oranguru that released several years ago with that instruct ability that allowed you to draw up to 3 cards once you're in your turn. This card is going to be great when your opponent plays cards like Roxanne or Iono. Making your deck much more Iono and Roxanne proof is definitely something that a lot of players are going to try and put in their decks to prevent those situations from happening. We also have Genome Hack here. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. This is going to see lots of play in Lugia V-Star variants, any deck that can play Mirage Gate as well, pretty much anything that can accelerate multiple energies to a Pokemon in the same turn. You're going to be able to use this attack, and I think this card is going to see heavy play in plenty of meta decks. Currently, I say just pick up 4. There's a chance that some decks are actually going to run a 4 count, just also because the ability is just so powerful on top of, a fantastic attack. I think there will be some decks that might even be entirely focused around using this Mew EX card. This card's absolutely amazing, and I definitely think it's going to see lots of play. Alrighty, hopping into the next Pokemon here, we have Blastoise EX with that ability Solid Shell. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks, which is really nice, effectively making your Blastoise have 360 HP. Its attack, Twin Cannons, is really what makes it special. It deals 140 damage. You get to discard up to 2 basic water drain energy cards from your hand. Attack does 140 damage for each card discarded in this way. So it does base 140 if you discard 1 energy. However, if you are able to discard 2, it deals 280, which is enough to knock out plenty of the biggest and most powerful Pokemon in the format. This is going to see play with cards like Baxcalibur and Shenpao, and might replace something like Palkia in a lot of those decks. I also have been seeing some Japanese lists that have been more or less just focused around Blastoise as the main attacker, so I do think that 3 is a perfect number to pick up for, and I think that it's going to be a really good card. All right, hopping into the next card here, we have Charizard EX. Charizard EX has that first attack, Resolute Wings, which deals 60 damage, and if this Pokemon has any damage counters on it, this attack does 100 more damage. So 160 for 1 energy is incredibly powerful. Its second attack, though, is what truly is getting most of the talk, Detonating Vortex, dealing 300 damage, and you discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. So this is going to likely be paired up with the Dark-type Charizard that allows you to attach 3 energies from your deck to any of your Pokemon. So I think that's probably going to be what makes this card good, is you're going to be playing the other Charizard from Obsidian Flames, and then maybe 1 or 2 in that deck as well. So I think that 2 is the perfect number, as I don't think that there's going to be any decks that entirely revolve around this, because Fire doesn't have a ton of energy acceleration aside from Charizard EX. So I think that if you play the other Charizard EX paired up with this, I think that's going to be the best way moving forward to play this Charizard EX from 151. So I think that 2 is probably the correct count to pick up as of right now. If you need a third, shouldn't be too hard to pick it up, but I think you want to start off with at least 2. Hopping into the next one, we have more of a fun Pokemon, Wigglytuff EX here, with that ability Expanding Body. If this Pokemon has any special energies attached to it, it gets 100 plus HP, making it have 350 HP. With things like V-Guard energy, you can have even more, and there are lots of actually colorless energies that work very nicely with this Pokemon. Friend Tackle, dealing 90 damage. If you played a supporter card from your hand during this turn, it deals 90 more damage. So 180 for 3 for having pretty much almost 400 HP is actually pretty good. I think that if any deck is going to play this card, I think they're going to play a very thick count of it, because you just want to fully focus on using Wigglytuff as that gigantic tank Pokemon. So I think picking up 4 is safe, but I think you could definitely get away with picking up 3 if you do want to build a Wigglytuff deck. Overall, I think this deck actually has some potential just with so much HP and the ability to two-shot most things in the format. So I think it has potential, and I think it could be a really fun card. Hopping into the next one, we finally have a Alakazam card. We haven't had one in quite some time. Alakazam EX with that Mind Jack. It deals 90 damage and the attack does 30 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So versus decks that love to fill up their bench, decks like Lugia V-Star, for example, any type of Lost Zone deck as well. Pretty much just most decks in format love to fill up their bench. So Mind Jack is going to be able to deal lots of damage to those Pokemon with, you know, a pretty efficient attack cost being 2. I think it's going to be actually pretty strong. Dimensional Manipulation. This is a crazy attack, as it can use this attack even when it's on the bench, something that we really haven't seen in Pokemon. A Pokemon that can just use an attack from the bench, I think is really cool. Do I think this attack is very good? No, I don't think it's actually very good. However, I think this card is incredibly cool, and the ability to attack from the bench is actually something that might be decent. Maybe some type of stall deck could utilize this when it's hiding behind things. I think that's the best way to use the attack, but the damage really doesn't do a whole lot, and I think Mind Jack might just be the better attack on this Pokemon. But if you do want to build an Alakazam deck, I think you probably want to pick up at least 3 of these cards. All right, let's move on. Moving on here, we have one of the birds. We have Zapdos EX with that ability Bolt Float. If this Pokemon has any lightning energy attached, it has no retreat cost. You need lightning energies to attack with it anyways, so you're gonna have free retreat pretty much the entire game. This attack is actually pretty interesting. Multi-shot lightning, dealing 120 damage, and this attack also does 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So maybe pairing this up with something like Hawlucha could actually make this card pretty good. I think this might see some play in things like Miraidon. That's probably the place where this card fits in. It's just another solid lightning type attacker, but I don't think you can easily make a deck around this. So I think it's more of a support Pokemon for some type of lightning deck. So I think picking up 2 is probably the perfect count. It's not the greatest card, but I think it has some potential moving forward. Moving on, next up, we have Kangaskhan EX here with triple draw. Being able to draw 3 cards is a pretty cool effect. I think we've had it on some other Kangaskhan's in the past as well. So that attack is well known on Kangaskhan's, and we have the attack that really makes it interesting. We have Machine Gun Punch, which deals 100 damage. However, you flip 4 coins, and for each one, you do 100 damage for each head. So it does flat 100 if you flip at least 1 heads. However, if you flip more heads, it continues to do even more and more. So with the ability to hit 400, that actually is kind of good. I think this card has a lot of potential. You should statistically be doing at least 200 damage per 4 flips. If you're flipping 50%, you're going to be doing 200. However, if you get a little bit lucky and you get a 75% flip rate, you're dealing 300 damage, which is enough to knock out mostly everything in the format. So I actually think this Pokemon is not terrible. I think it has some potential. I'm not sure exactly in what, but I do think that it's worth picking up at least 2 of as of right now. Some deck that maybe plays a Mirage Gate or some way to easily accelerate energy onto Pokemon is probably where this card is going to see success. I don't think it's going to be on its own. I think it's going to need to be a support Pokemon, but I think it has potential. Moving on, we have Chansey here with that ability Lucky Bonus. If you took this Pokemon as a face down prize card and your bench isn't full, before you put it into your hand, you may put it onto your bench and flip a coin. If heads, take 1 more prize card. It's kind of an interesting ability. I'm personally just going to probably hold on to one of them. I think this card might be better and expanded paired up with one of the Mr. Mimes that puts the top card from your deck. That could be a Chansey if you used a card to put it on top. Into the prize cards, there was a combination with I believe Jirachi a couple years ago where you would use the Oranguru's Primate Wisdom paired up with the Jirachi and also the Mr. Mime. So kind of reminiscent a little bit of that. I don't necessarily think it's going to be great off the bat, but maybe they do make some cool combo cards with this that actually makes it an interesting card. However, the biggest problem is you do have to flip a coin, even if you take it off the prize cards. But if you flip heads, you take an extra prize card, which is pretty good. So I think that this is going to be just a one of as of right now. I personally recommend just picking up one. It's not something that's going to be really good right now, but maybe in the future we get some other cool cards that combo nicely with it. So Chansey, it's kind of cool, but I wouldn't necessarily worry about it too much. But I'd recommend picking up just one. All right, hopping into one of the more talked about cards in this set, we have Ditto with this ability Transforming Start. This ability can only be used if this Pokemon is in the active spot and only on your first turn. However, if it is your first turn, you search your deck for a basic Pokemon, except any Ditto, and if you do, you discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it and put that Pokemon in its place. So I think if this card is going to be played, it's going to be played as a 4 in a deck like maybe Lost Zone Toolbox that can utilize this card to basically just turn it instantly into a Comfey. I think this has potentially some space in a deck. However, the problem that's going to hurt this card is that you can only use it on your first turn. However, I do recommend picking up at least 4 of them just in case this card sees play. It's going to be seen as a 4 most likely because you need to start it. So as of right now, I think Ditto's a pretty cool card that might see a little bit of play moving forward. All right, moving on here, we have Moltres. Moltres has that ability Flare Float. This Pokemon has any fire energies attached. It has no retreat cost, so pretty much the exact same thing as the Zapdos, except it's not a EX Pokemon. Its attack is actually really good. Long distance flight. You discard 2 fire energy from this Pokemon. You get to snipe 120 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So this could see play in any type of fire deck right now. I think this card has some potential moving forward if people do decide to cut Manaphy out of their deck. I think this does make a pretty cool maybe tech card in something like Charizard EX. Just being able to snipe down something is actually really nice. And also having the free retreat if it has a fire energy on is pretty cool. I'd personally just pick up 2. You could probably get away with just picking up 1, but I think this card might have some potential moving forward, especially if Manaphy rotates out of the format. But it's a pretty good card, and I'm excited to see exactly how it does. Moving on to some of the item cards, we have Safety Goggles. Safety Goggles is the basic Pokemon this card is attached to, has no weakness. You attach any number of tool cards. Actually, tool card technically, it's not an item anymore, but it is considered a trainer. So you may attach any number of Pokemon tool cards to your Pokemon during your turn. You may only attach 1 Pokemon tool card to each Pokemon, and it stays attached. So pretty much the same ruling, nothing changed there. However, being able to turn off weaknesses on basic Pokemon, I think actually can be really good. It's a worse weakness policy that we saw way back. See lots of play in plenty of decks. However, I do think that this card might see some success at some point if we get basic only decks that, you know, become even more, you know, top tier. Something like Lost Zone Toolbox is not going to use this because they have so little HP and they already get knocked out. However, if we have a big HP basic Pokemon, like maybe something like Miraidon, for example, maybe they could get some use out of this potentially. As of right now, I just pick up 2 of them. I think the card has potential, but I'm not sure exactly in what yet. Moving on, we have Big Balloon. The Stage 2 Pokemon card attached to has no retreat cost, so it effectively is a float stone for Stage 2 Pokemon, which it's okay. I think I'm personally going to pick up 2. I recommend picking up 2 just because it's so cheap. However, I don't think this card is going to see tons of play right off the bat, unless there's a Stage 2 deck that really feels like it could get use out of it. Maybe something like Baxcalibur could play 1 or 2 of these, and you can attach it onto there just to have that free retreat. Could be potentially good, but if there's some Stage 2 deck that has a bunch of retreat costs that hurts the deck, then this card actually might see some play. So as of right now, I think it's a solid 2 of. I'd pick it up just as 2 because I don't see any decks probably playing 3 or 4 of it, so I just pick up 2 as of right now. It's honestly kind of a cool card though. So all right, moving on, we have Leftovers, one of the more interesting tool cards. This Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon at the end of your turn. You heal 20 damage from that Pokemon. I think any deck that plays Leftovers should be playing a heavier count as you want to consistently get this onto your Pokemon. Healing 20 damage a turn is not too bad, especially if you're playing maybe something like the Wigglytuff, pretty much giving yourself almost 400 HP. So I think this card, if you do decide to play it, you want to play heavy counts as you want to get it down onto all your Pokemon as quickly as possible. I think this card has some potential in something. Maybe there's a combination that works really well with Leftovers. We'll see exactly, but I think it's a pretty cool card. Next up here, we have Erica's Invitation. Erica's Invitation has been getting lots of talk. Your opponent reveals their hand, choose a basic Pokemon you find there, and put it onto their bench. And then you switch that into the active Pokemon. So it pretty much is a boss's orders, but the only thing you're going to be able to boss's orders is the Pokemon that went down. So that is a big risk reward factor. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's something that you kind of have to look at of whether or not it's kind of worth that risk, to be able to, use your supporter for a turn. I think this card has a lot of potential in something like control, and it should be pretty cheap right off the bat. So I recommend picking up 4, especially if we lose something like boss's orders in the format and this becomes the only card that actually has a gust, potential. Then I think Erica's Invitation might be a little bit more viable. But I think this card is very interesting. I think it might have potential. I'm just not sure in exactly what yet, but I think it could be good. And I'd personally recommend just picking up 4 of them. All right, moving on. We have another really cool card, Giovanni's Charisma. A lot of these new cards have effects we've never seen on cards before, which is kind of cool. You put an energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into your hand. If you do, you get to attach an energy card from your hand to your Pokemon, which is really, really good. So you take off active and you attach to active. That's just in general really good tempo swing, I think. So I think this card actually will see play. I don't know exactly what decks are gonna need to play, maybe something like Arceus. I think Arceus could maybe use this card potentially, but I think this card will see play. I think maybe an Arceus or a deck that might struggle to get energies on the board, Giovanni's Charisma is gonna be really, really nice, for those decks to help out. And it also has a disrupt effect. Something with control definitely is also going to use this, but I think Giovanni's definitely worth picking up at least 2 of them. I don't think it's going to be a 3 or 4 of in a deck because it doesn't necessarily have a draw effect, to it. So I think that you'd only be playing 1 or 2 in a deck, but it has potential. I think it's pretty cool. Moving on here, we have Bill's Teleport. Bill's Teleport, you look at the top 8 cards of your deck, you may reveal any number of Pokemon you find there and put them into your hand. Then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. This card is actually kind of cool. Being able to look at the top 8, put any Pokemon you find there and put them into your hand is actually kind of nice. I would just recommend picking up 1 because I don't think this card isn't necessarily incredible, but maybe we lose some, ball search or search cards later on, and this would be something that would instantly become a little bit more viable. So Bill's Teleport, I think it's a pretty cool card, and I like the effect on it, and it might see some play in the future. Moving on here, we have Cycling Road. This is one of the best cards out of the brand new set. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand. If they do, that player may draw a card. So it's a miniature Radiant Greninja. You discard 1, draw 1. Nice to see. It's a great removal of Path to the Peak, and I think if you play it in any deck, you want to be playing a heavier count of 3 to 4. I think this card has a lot of potential. I think it's going to work out in maybe some decks like Chen Pao that are already trying to discard energy, maybe Palkia, just any deck that wants to discard energies, maybe some like Miraidon as well, it could see play in. But I think this card is really, really cool. I think it has a lot of potential. It's going to boost consistency, and it's going to help out decks that are trying to get cards in the discard. All right, that is going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this buy list as well. I'll have the link to the PokeBeach article that has all of these cards translations in the description, so make sure to go check that out. With that being said, thank you so much for all the support as always. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll speak with you again soon. Thank you so much for all the support. This is Smart TCG. Peace out. If you're looking to improve your game, I do offer coaching on Medify. I was ranked in the top 16 ranked players in the entire world, and I know what it takes to reach the next level. I have a free coaching consultation if you're interested in booking that to kind of figure out exactly what coaching is and whether or not it is something for you. I also have individual sessions, event decklist preparation, replay reviews, training plans, and more. So if you have any questions, make sure to book that consultation if you're interested, and we can kind of go over exactly what coaching is and how it will make you into the very best player that you can possibly be. But with that being said, thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate it. This is Smart TCG, and I'll speak with you all again soon. Thank you so much for the support. Peace.